All right, I've got 1 o'clock Central Standard Time, so we're going to start to roll. I know how valuable your time is, and we want to get you back to doing what you are hired to do. But I hope you get something out of this today, because I'm going to teach you today how to be a terrible leader and how to really destroy your team. I was thinking about the title of this forum, building a team, and it seems so cliche, and everybody fundamentally knows all these rules, right? But all too often, when we get in the heat of the day-to-day affairs of life, we forget all these fundamental rules, and they just kind of get tossed out the side. So I thought it might be fun, and I've asked EmaDella to join us. Say hi, Emma.
Hello.
All right. So Emma, once again, EmaDella is not a loud speaker like I am, but if she don't start speaking louder, you guys can start putting on the question mark. Emma, speak up. Okay, can you speak up one more time for me, Emma?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm working on being as loud as Brian.
Oh, please, that was too much. That was too loud. Okay, so you went too far. But EmaDella is going to read some stories, and we're going to respond to some situations and get into questions. If you have questions, using the control panel, some people started emailing us last night some questions, so we've got those on the hook too. But first, let's get into some of the basics right now. We're going to get you out of here as soon as I start running out of steam. All right. Just so you understand from a leadership and team building aspect who I am and where I'm coming from, because everyone has their own biases and their own experience in the leadership world, and all of it's valuable, and some of it will create bad habits or good habits. And just so you know where I'm coming from, I was in the military for a number of years, combat dude in the infantry, so old Army guy, and so you get a lot of leadership training, a lot of teammanship in that, in a lot of very heated situations. So I get my infancy in building teams in that quandary. Later on, I became a psychologist and a lawyer. So yeah, I use some psychology and an industrial psychologist by trade. So I look at the movement of teams, and that's what I also taught in as a professor for a number of years. And I built and sold 4 companies, a varying success. They weren't all very successful. Some of them were really not good at all, terrible days. But I learned so much about building teams and what destroys teams. And I have been a part of both. I've caused, I got a lot of flaws, and I've done some really dumb things when it comes to being a leader. And hopefully I'm still learning, work in progress, just like you, because you're here, and that's pretty awesome. So thanks for joining us. And we'll put this in our Academy site, but I think also up on YouTube for a while if you want to share this with your friends that couldn't be here. All right, so let's keep going, and I want to tell you one story first. And this story came across to me a few weeks ago, and I really dwelled on it. It was a story of a young employee, and they did a survey of him, and they talked. He had 2 different jobs. He's working 2 different jobs, both about the same amount of money. One was in a coffee shop. One was kind of in a more office type setting. And what the researcher was trying to get at is, are there really just bad employees, and are all the employees entitled, and they're all bad, and they all stink, and they're entitled little whiners and snowflakes and all this stuff? Is that true? Well, we'll call this guy Fred. Well, Fred had 2 different jobs, but his reaction to the 2 different companies was dramatically different, and it was all dependent on the leader. It was all dependent on their manager, and to some extent their coworkers. Well, in one job, he was excited to get there. He was excited to work hard. He didn't mind working overtime. He liked to get into situations to try to make things better. And his leaders and his coworkers gave surveys, and they said, yeah, that's true about Fred, right? That's true about him. And in his other job, he was disengaged. He didn't seem to care, did the minimum effort possible in a lot of situations. And it was like, so why is it that you got this one person in 2 different views? And it was about the way the leaders treated him. And it got honed down into one critical thing. The leaders in company A, where he was excited to go to work, would wander around and they'd say, what can I do for you, Fred, to make you successful? What can I do to help? What can I do to make you win? Because if you win, I win, the team wins, it's great. The other place was constantly being critical, constantly nipping at his heels, and he just wanted to do everything he could to hide and collect a paycheck. So what happens is you can have a person, and I didn't say they're good or bad yet, and you can push them to being a good teammate, and you can push them to being a bad teammate. And we're going to kind of get into the yin and yang of that, so to speak. But I really want to understand as the school districts around the nation are facing shortages of great teachers, shortages of great administrators and communications directors and C-suite people and front desk people and every aspect of it, because you and I know school systems don't always pay the best. They don't always have the most resources to pay them. But I need you to know this. People quit a job for 2 reasons. One is money, and the other one is something else. And it's that something else that we do have control over, whatever that something else is. And often it's people are quitting bad leaders, they're quitting bad cultures, they're quitting places that are just miserable. People will stay for not great money if they have all those other attributes. And so when we see a mass exodus of our teachers or faculty and staff, and we say it's because of the salaries, it's not true. That's bunk. It's an excuse, because they know that they're getting into teaching and it doesn't pay what a mortgage bond broker makes. They get that. They're signing up because they want to take care of the babies. They want to train. That's their passion. That's their energy. And then they get in these environments that are sometimes toxic. And that's not just true of education school districts, true companies around the world. And so what we've got to do is we got to make a better culture and better teammanship to keep them, because they're not quitting because of a lack of pay. They're quitting because of bad teams and bad culture. So let's talk about how to build the worst culture you can make. All right, EmaDella, does that sound good if I do that for a minute?
Yes.
Okay. So first, don't communicate with them. Let them guess what your expectations are and what you want. Just don't tell them. Assume that they know what to do. Just assume. Just sit back and relax. And there's an old adage in communications, if you're in the communications game, you have to over communicate. And what somebody's going to do is go, I do over communicate. No, you don't. You don't over communicate. It is impossible nowadays to over communicate to you and your team and your parents and it's impossible. You can't do it enough. And I'll give you a stat. All right. We get it, and this is a recent Harvard study. I guess it's about a year ago. And this number has gone up from 10,000 to 15,000. People get as many as 15,000 messages a day. And you are a drip in the bucket of everything, of all the communications people are getting buried with. It is so hard to cut through that noise. And even if you can manage to get your message to your team, you and I know how easy it is for them to misconstrue it, for them not completely understand it. So we just interviewed somebody yesterday, and they finally got to sit down with me for lunch as an interview process, right? Poor person, right? And I said, hey, tell me what you know about it so far. And it was funny because I know in the interview, in his first, second, third interviews, whatever many he's had, he was told certain fundamental things about the company. And it was funny how by the time he got to me, he only remembered a couple little highlights that really didn't reflect upon what the interviewer on our team was trying to convey to him. And but he took from his own experience, his own biases, his own subconscious, he took a couple things. They weren't wrong, but it wasn't what the communicator meant to highlight. It wasn't what the interviewer meant to highlight. It's because the interviewer did not over communicate. The interviewer said, I'm going to say it once, I expect you to be an active listener, and then that's the end of the conversation. That's bunk, man. If you expect your team to be an active listener and you expect them to just pick up stuff because you have baptized it and you send them an email and you send them a text, it's not enough. It's just not enough. And so if you really want to be a bad leader, just don't communicate much. Let people guess. Don't set clear goals. I'm telling you, you will be the worst leader in the history of mankind. You will win at being awful, right? And there's this thing called SMART goals. Maybe you guys have heard of it, but it's like specific, measurable, results oriented and time bound and all this stuff. And basically, it's trying to design you to speak with your team in a clear manner and give them clear objectives on what it is that you want them to do and what you don't want them to do. And people just don't do that. People do not speak in a clear, concise manner with their team, and they just assume too much. And so first thing, Emma, is if you want a crappy team and you just don't want the hassle, just don't communicate with them much. And for God's sakes, if you say, well, I'm going to communicate with them a little, just send them an email and don't worry about whether or not they got it. Don't go reinforce it verbally. Don't reinforce it with a text. Don't reinforce it with another email. Just don't do any of those things, and your people will leave you. So that's one pro tip to get rid of your team. All right. So I'm trying to be a little bit more mouthy about this stuff, but it really infuriates me because all we do is push people to over communicate, but they just don't do it. So just stop. Don't worry about it. They'll just leave you. You'll be alone. You want to talk to anybody. You can be what was that that movie gets stuck on the island. He gets stuck on an island and he has no one to communicate but Bob, the he was shipwrecked or something. It was Tom Hanks, Outcast or Castaway or something like that. And you could be him. You could be sitting on an island and talk to a ball if you don't want to communicate. Those are your choices nowadays. All right. So the second thing you can do to be a terrible leader is don't coach, instead judge. Judge the living hell out of everyone around you. Just be a little judgy. Go get your policies and your procedures, and don't tell people what they should or shouldn't do until after the fact. Then you could just hammer them to death, right? You could just get them with your bureaucracy if you want. And I got a phone call about this was outside of the school system, but I think it reflects this. And this employee, is a friend of mine, he got canned from a job and he was digging in and he was getting promoted and it was awesome sauce. And the HR people pulled him in and they said, you can't do A. And he said, really? Because we used to be allowed to do A all the time at my old company, but that's school. I won't do it again. They go, no, it's too late. I have my gavel. I really want you to buy me a gavel. I need a big gavel. Judge, right? It's you should have known better. Well, why should I have known better? He took a person in his private car, like out to lunch, like A to B. It was like an employee or something. And he'd been with his supervisor at the exact same company, by the way, in a personally owned vehicle. But for some reason, it violated some policy that was unknown to him. And instead of going, hey, man, you can't do that, and here's why, like, don't let it happen again, they canned him. They fired him. And it was like, what? And then the boss's boss, the one above that person, said, no, we can't fire somebody over that dumb rule. Now the guy didn't want to come back, of course, because they have such arbitrary ways to treat their people. And he just didn't have to put up with that. He's a sharp person. He didn't have to deal with this bureaucratic nonsense. And so when you're choosing to judge instead of coach, you're choosing processes over people. You're choosing some bureaucratic nonsense over relationships and growth and improvement. Coaches, as leaders, get very frustrated and very, oh man, I mean, it's painful. And it's also super rewarding, right? Because they really invest time and energy into their people, right? I'm not talking about you become best friends. You shouldn't do that in employee-employee relationship. As leaders, you got to keep a little bit of arm's length transaction there, that to keep everything above board. But they invest in them and they spend time on them and they find materials for them to read and books for them to look at, and they talk to them about the issues and then they try to work with them on those issues and hopefully they see improvement with those people. That's what a great leader and coach does. Now, it's hard because you got to know when to stop that if they're just not growing and improving. That's maybe we leave that for questions or not. But a judge is not a leader. A judge is a judge. A judge sits back on their throne. That's why they put judges up higher than you, because it's like a throne and they're looking down on us peons. When I was a lawyer, I felt very judged by those judges. Well, I did. And so they're down here to make a ruling, not to help you, not to coach you, not to make you a better person. And so if you don't want to be a great leader, you don't want to have a great team around you, all the leaders should judge and not coach. Okay, that makes sense, right? Okay. Number three is, for God's sakes, don't defend your team. Throw them to the wolves. There's no faster way to get your people to run away from you and have a terrible team if everyone's pointing fingers at each other, right? And if you're a leader, even if you're on a team and you start seeing people point fingers at each other, you need to end it. It is toxic. But if you want to get rid of everyone so you don't have to deal with the hassle of having a team at all, then don't support them. And it is funny. I know we all hate like group projects when we were in school. Like the thought of a group project's like, oh, no, they're going to be terrible. Yeah, that's why we make people do group projects, because you have to work with humans pretty much the rest of your life. And so you got to decide whether or not you're going to support your team or sabotage your team. And I was thinking about this. This happened to me probably a year or two ago. I was at I was in a principal's office, and we were looking at some things to recruit students and get some training out of the way. And I just met this principal, the superintendent, and asked me to go over there and look at a few schools. And so I like doing that kind of stuff. And I heard a parent coming up. This is the end of the school day, and the parent, you can hear him coming. I mean, you can hear him thump, 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 right? And they get there, and I hear him just berating the front desk person. And I kind of screw my chair back, expecting the principal to stand the hell up and go out there and say something or do something, or hey, let me talk to the parent, let me bring him into conference room, let me do all the things that we try to train you to do, which is to de-escalate and to handle that situation as an advocate and not to have your teammate crap beat up. And the principal stood up, and I was like, good, I'm going to see it in action, man. I cannot wait. I can't wait. They walked over and they shut their door and with them in the room with me. What are you doing? Well, I mean, that's not my job. I don't have to deal with that. We'll let somebody else deal with it. I mean, that's what they're paid. They're not paid that well. Your front desk people aren't paid that well, and a lot of them are undertrained to deal with that stuff. But even if they were well paid, and even if they are fully trained, every one of your teammates see you do that. They all see you do that. And if you're a teacher or a principal, or you're the same equal your coworkers, and you see a team member getting the crap beat out, and you see other team members leave, you see it, and you know it. You know that they abandoned that person. That the principal didn't even have to go out there and get in the way if they felt like that person could handle it. But it's nice just to be in a nice supportive position. It's nice afterwards to go up there and say, man, you did a really good job. I overheard you. A+, you did a great job. A little coaching would be helpful in that scenario, but also to let them know that you got their back. And all too often in school districts, I'm hearing and seeing that people don't have each other's backs. They feel overwhelmed with parents that are freaking out, or policies and rules. And so what they're doing is they are protecting rules and policies, and they're not protecting people. And so I think you should defend your team, and you've got to protect them at all costs, because that's who you're going forward with. That's who's going to support you if you support them. But if you don't care, don't worry about it. So the fourth point, and then we're going to get into some scenarios and some questions and all that stuff, right, Emma?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So is one, I think you should surround yourself with people that are not threats to you. This is critical if you want to be a bad leader and a bad team member. Only surround yourself with people that are dumber than you. Only surround yourself with people that do not threaten your ego. That way you'll feel really good as you're losing. All right. Great leaders, great teams want to surround themselves with people that are smarter than they are. They want to find people that are better at things than they are. And not just find people that will be subservient to them and yes men. And there's a famous story. Jack Welch went to take over GE in the 80s, and the company was going bankrupt. And he walked in here and he looked at his team of advisors, and as the story goes, there's 25 people on one of those gigantic conference room tables that I can't afford. And he looked around that room and he said, all right, I need one yes man. One. Everybody else better have an opinion. He wanted to surround himself with people that were smarter than he was. He wanted people in there to have opinions and debate. He didn't find that as a threat to his ego, because he wanted the team to perform better. And a bunch of yes people don't help you grow. They don't help you be better, and you shouldn't see them as threats. And all too often I see people don't want to hire anyone that are potential threats. They don't want to be surrounded with people that are potential threats. They don't want that teacher down the hallway to do better than they did. And I don't get that. If that teacher does better, and then you do a little bit better, and then you do a little bit better, everyone's rising up. But it's the people that don't really want to work hard that scare me. It's the ones that don't want to get things done. And yeah, eventually we want to keep good teachers and good faculty and good staff, and the bad ones got to go bye-bye. But the only way to get better ones is to have better ones. And this is so critical. Great people, great employees, great teachers, great faculty and staff do not want to surround themselves with duds. And so when we let the duds take over, all you're going to be left with is the duds. That's all you're going to have left. And so if you start to only put weak people in place, you're only going to end up with weak people. And so you've got to cut those bad people out of your diet quick and flourish and coach the good ones. All right. So I got 5 people, and I know you got some scenarios, and I haven't heard them yet, so I don't know if you're going to try to trick me or not, Emma. I got 5 people to watch out for. 5. If you want to be a good leader, you want to have a great team, you want to be a good team builder, you got to watch out for 5 types of people: trolls, dragons, snowflakes, Oscars, and SpongeBobs. I just came up with 2 of these titles. Some of the others are known. Okay, trolls. What are trolls? Trolls are the people that are just little gossipers, the little pot stirrers. You know, they're the ones that walk up and go, do you think it's fair that Alicia's classroom has got better air conditioning than my classroom? And it's like, you pot stirring, you're trying to cause gossip. You're not working on the problem. You're not trying to solve anything. You're trying to create drama. So you're a little troll. Dragons, the next big dragons. Dragons, you gotta love a dragon. Dragons love to burn every good idea down. Anything that was ever good, they burn it down. And anytime, and then when it's time to like actually build and create something, they fly away. I don't like people that aren't part of the solution. And you got to watch out. Now, remember, these are people to watch out for, not just team members. When you're building a team in a school system, you're building it with the parents, with the HOA, with the students. I mean, there's a massive team component to all this. And if you get a parent that is a dragon in an HOA, I keep saying HOA, I'm sorry, in a PTA, and all they're doing is burning every good idea down, you got to get rid of them. And I didn't say like, I didn't mean like that. Okay. What I meant was like, you've got to go handle them. You got to go deal with that. And I remember I was running a school district superintendent called me and goes, Brian, I need you to run a PTA for me. And I was like, you got people that can do that? Go, we want you to do it. And I was like, all right, okay. What am I walking myself into? And they go, we got a bit of a problem person in the back, and we don't know how to handle it, and we need you to be the backup. And I was like, I'm great at being the backup. If you want me to come and run a PTA and be a backup, I'm in. Okay, because it's hilarious for me, because I love to support good people, and trolls and dragons I do not support. I stump on. All right, and you can't always do that in the nice, world that you live in, but I don't live in that world. So I show up to this meeting, and sure enough, man, they called it. They're gonna sit. This person's gonna sit in the back, right, over there, and they sure did. And I was like, whoa, time out, man. We're all volunteers up here. Do you want to come down here and help us? I don't have time to help. Oh, you're a dragon. You just want to complain and don't want to be a part of the solution. This meeting is for people that want to create solutions. I got a standing ovation. And that person left. I didn't make him leave. But they at least weren't dragging. They weren't burning everything down anymore. Because what happens if you allow the dragons to stay, the good people just won't come back. All the good parents will not show up to PTA meetings where one person is just yelling and screaming and acting like a horse's butt. They will boogie. And all too often, we're so diplomatic to those people. We're so polite to those people. We forget about all the other good people that are sitting there being patient and are contributing in a good way. And the more in this society we allow the dragons and the trolls to take over, the good people will regress and leave. They will vote with their taillights. Please stop worried about the dragons. Worry about the good people. All right, snowflakes. I think you probably get this. Whiners, complainers, perpetual victims. I'm not talking about real victims. I'm talking about people that no matter what happens in their life, it's always just hard. You got to watch out for those people, man. You gotta maybe build them up. Maybe you can coach them into being a more contributing factor of it. That's tough. The 4th category, Oscar the Grouches. You guys remember Oscar the Grouch? Sesame Street, right? Oscar the Grouch was a pessimist. He was a negative Nelly, claiming to be a realistic person. I got to deal with that stuff all the time. Somebody that says, so I'm just being realistic. No, you're a pessimist, man. You are dragging us all down. You drive me bonkers. You got no ability. You don't believe in creating a team. You don't believe in trying to get this project done. All you're doing is tearing us down. But they keep hanging around. They're not like the dragons. They don't fly away. They're just there complaining the whole time. Man, you got to, in private, tap them left, pop them right. Try to get them to stop being an Oscar the Grouch. And then you got to watch out for the SpongeBobs. And so my daughter got me to watch SpongeBob SquarePants. And SpongeBob is way too optimistic. All right. There ain't nothing wrong. There's no issues to ever worry about. Everything's going to work out. You don't have to problem solve either because, heavens to Betsy. Everything's well. And this ain't TV world, man. Sometimes we got to deal with like real issues. So you don't want to have people on the extremes of any of these categories. So, Emma, I have taken up almost half of our slot today, ranting a little bit, but I'm not a dragon. I will solve the problems with you. Let's give our first. I'll let you give our first reaction. All right.
Yeah, so these are scenarios that people have told us or that they sent in. So I'm just gonna start at the top. This first one, okay. I had a manager who would refuse to give me ongoing feedback while I was working on something. I'd ask for it and she would say, just show me when it's done. I was in a co-op learning position, so it was terrifying to think I'd be going in the wrong direction, only to find out at the end. I'm the kind of person who needs constant feedback to feel confident that the work I'm doing is not only what's expected of me, but that it's great. My manager constantly refused to give me the feedback I needed when asked.
Okay, so I think what we're going to talk about is a bad leader, bad employee, right? I'm going to say something a little outrageous. This is a bad employee. This is a snowflake. It is. I know. And we get this here even in our company too. These young people that want constant feedback. We do not have a constant feedback machine. I know people want feedback. You look, as a good coach, you're giving feedback. And maybe that manager, the leader, the principal, whatever it is, could have been like, look, here's how it's going to work. You're going to get me a draft. I'm not going to give you feedback. And this person said in their thing, constantly, always. Yeah, it's constant feedback. You can't give constant feedback to anyone. It's unrealistic. And I don't know what college or whatever they went to. No professor had time to have you come in their office every day and get feedback on their papers. People have got to learn how to work independently. Now, the leader, I think it's very fair, though, to say, look, I'm going to coach you through this. You're not going to be hobbled. You're not going to be penalized, but you got to get me a draft today. And in 2 days, I'll give you some feedback, and then you're going to go work independently for 3 or 4 days, and then I'll give feedback. And the more experience somebody has, and the more money they're making, the less feedback should be required. But even an entry-level employee cannot get feedback every hour. And that's a snowflake. And you just can't, they'll destroy your time. They'll destroy your work ethic. And I'm sorry, you're not going to build a better team and have team morale because if you got 4 people that are on the team and you're constantly having to deal with somebody that is needy, you're neglecting the other ones. And a leader's got to spread that out. But I think it's fair to try to coach that employee that that's the way life works. I got to coach everybody, and I got my own stuff to do, man. You're going to be all right. Mm-hmm. You're going to get through this, but you got to go and keep working on drafts, all right? So don't. But I'm not going to talk to you every hour or even every day about this. You're going to have to run a little independent free. So I think that's setting clear goals, clear expectations, and letting them know what boundaries you have. That I think it's okay to set some realistic boundaries, right? All right. Yeah. Woo! Man, that was heated up. Okay, Emma, let's do another one. Slow down so I can make sure I get it. All right, but that was good. Thank you.
So this one is about a job, their first real job. It says, while in my first proper job after university, both my parents passed in traumatic circumstances. My parents lived in a different country, so I needed a bit of time off. I asked my boss what the policy was for this kind of situation, and he said, this is in quotation marks, I understand this is a difficult time, but I find that work often helps process these emotional circumstances, so I expect you back at your desk in a week.
Man, that is, that smells like a bad leader, right? And we're going to take these things as exactly as you read them, right? So I wasn't there, you weren't there, it was hearsay and all that, but we'll just take them as that's exactly what the boss said, right? That's a real jerk move. Even, I know in a lot of school systems there are absolute policies for bereavement and sick leave and pay time off and all those situations. But as a leader, you say, well, look, let's don't talk about the policy right now. Like I'm going to give but first off, tell me how you're doing. You mean both your parents passed away? Is there anything I can do for you to be a good teammate? Is there any way that I can help you? Because the policy in the school system says you get a week off, and that's what you can get. That's what we can do that. But it doesn't mean we can't be humans and we can't connect. And you need me to go water your plants, or you need ask another teammate, another teacher to do that for you. And I know that's a pain, but when another teacher, faculty, or staff is an issue, they'll end up helping them too. And that's what it's about right now. And I don't see any emotional response to this. I don't see any emotional connection with another human being that had a traumatic experience. And I don't give one flying flip what this so-called boss thinks. I understand that this is a difficult time, but I find that work often helps person. I don't care what you find. It's not about you. Mm-hmm. And that's what a leader does. A leader, it's about them. It's about your team. It's not about leaders eat last, kids, not first. If you want to see what a bad leader does, you watch them go to the front of the damn line and eat before their team does. You worry about them first and you second, and you will create loyalty and you'll have a great team. And this person ain't doing it. And John Maxwell, who has tons of books on leadership, would rank the levels of leaders. And what we really all want to do, and in order to create a great team, is become permissive leaders. And even if you're not higher than, maybe you're all equal, but you can still become a permissive leader, which means they give you permission to lead them, right? This person is not this is a positional leader. This person is in a position of leadership, but ain't nobody going to follow them, and they don't like this person, and I guarantee it. All right. So bad leader, bad. So we got one for the bad employees and one for the bad leaders so far, right, Emma?
Yes.
Okay, so yes. We're tied. All right, let's keep going.
Right. And we have two more if we want to go through all of these. Okay, so the next one, when I was a developer, I was working on a project with two other people. One of them quit and the other was fired. They were not replaced, and it wasn't made evident to me that replacements would be hired. With the lack of resources, I started having to work until midnight, day in and day out, including weekends, in order to finish the project. This went on for months. When I finally approached my manager to explain my point of view and ask for help, he told me that it wasn't a resource issue, but that I was bad at time management. I got so frustrated during this conversation, and it was very near complete burnout at this point. He told me I was too emotional, and from that point on, I had no trust for my manager. He wasn't on my side.
Oh my God, this is so, this is everything we've been talking about. One, you don't have a leader here that's building a team where he or she is coaching. They're not coaching people. If there was a time management issue and you're seeing this and the employee stressed out, did they coach the employee to develop better time management skills? It absolutely could be that they have terrible time management skills. I see that all the time. I mean, I see that with people in 20s, 30s, and the 40s. I'm getting up there a little bit. I see there are people all the time that they just spin in little circles, and they need to learn how to hone in and get things done in a more timely fashion. They screw around too much, and it could absolutely be a time management. But did you see the lack of communication? So two people, I think you said two people left and this person got to work.
Yes.
A great person that wanted to build a great team would say, hey, we have work for one person, not for three. I'm going to help you consolidate this work, do it in a timely fashion. I need to see you, cut your BS time down. I need to see you get things done and off your plate faster, because just like in the prior example where the person needs constant feedback, people that need constant feedback don't get things done in a timely manner. They're so afraid to pitch and put things out, they lock up. And you've got to free them up. You got to get them to loosen up and know it's going to be okay. You're not going to judge them with your gavel. You're going to coach them. And people that feel judged don't get things done as fast because they're terrified of being judged. Nobody wants to be judged. And so the manager on this one did not communicate with the team at all, didn't set clear expectations, wasn't on their side, and didn't help them by coaching them, judged them after the fact. This is terrible. Let's do one more of these, and then we'll try to get through a couple of questions. I'm gonna have an ulcer.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay, so this last one. I had a very stressful job and was expected to answer Slack messages from my boss at any time. I guess that's like group me, or I'd be fired. He was in a different time zone, so I often would be woken up at 3 a.m. being yelled at to do something. One day in the office, he was talking crap about me on Slack and accidentally posted it to a channel I was in. I was killing myself for this guy, and he didn't even appreciate it. I packed up and left. Best thing I've ever done.
I don't know if I've got any feedback for that. They should quit. I mean, I'm not I don't have a lot of boundaries in life, but there are some that are fundamental, and people in any team that have unrealistic expectations, unrealistic deadlines, unrealistic objectives will destroy everybody around them, and everyone will flee. And this person should have left. So I don't really have any feedback other than what we talked about on that one, which is it was fun. Let's go. We got about another eight or 9 minutes. I'd love to do a couple questions, and why don't you fire away there, Emma?
Yes. Okay. So this one was emailed to us. This was about a new employee, started out in a front desk position. They failed to show up 2 days in the first week, claiming that they had family issues. This person says, I want to be supportive, but not sure what to do because frankly, I'm not sure their emergency is real.
Okay. So I'm sorry, and I've fallen for this so many times, the whole bleeding heart stuff, and you feel bad for people and you want to be supportive. But the issue is really not about you supporting the person that had a couple issues, because I promise you, in the first week, if they had an issue, they're never not going to have issues. They sound like a snowflake already. They sound like people with just constant issues and problems. And I mean, I get it, but good employees, they get a flat tire, they figure out a way to get to work. Other people don't. And if they're having issues in the first week, it's not the first time they've had an issue. It wasn't like a coincidence, right? And I know that this stinks to say, and yes, it's possible. It is possible that it's just a string of bad luck. Or is it a constant habit of this person for eons? I have yet to find that anytime we have an employee with an issue in the first week, 2 weeks, no matter how long we keep them, they never course correct their problems. They never course correct these issues. They still look at Emma's head going up and down, up and down, up and down. It's because it's bull, it's bunk. And the thing you've got to be most concerned about as leader is not how compassionate you're being to that person that didn't show up to work because of an issue. Everyone else is watching you. Your entire team is watching you. All the good people that did show up are watching you, and they're seeing how you're going to react and what you're going to do about it. And you need to be focused more on what they're going to think and their morale and their teammanship than that new person. You really do. And I don't know, in that we probably don't have enough context to decide whether or not the person needs to go or be coached, but you're either coaching up or you're coaching out every day. You're either working with them, and if you're done, then get rid of them. And I'm sorry, but you've got to be able to believe in people, and you've got to be committed to growing and building until you're done with it. And there's a rule. The first time you really think about firing somebody, fire them. I know that you are in a bureaucratic government things with a lot of rules, but you better start getting your paperwork lined up. And you can't just go quietly into the night on this stuff. All too often, I've seen districts, they've got a person, they don't show up, they don't do a good job, and they're sweet, and they give them a good write-up, like check, check, check. And then they want to fire that person. And that person goes, you just gave me a good review, man. Well, I was being nice. You can't be nice. What you have to do is be fair. You have to be fair to everybody on the team. You have to be kind to everybody on your team. And when you give that bad person a good review because you don't want to have them feel bad, and you don't want to make them not like you, and you all know that this stuff happens, you're setting up everyone else to be angry and mad and go, because they see this paper. They're like, this person doesn't support the team. This person doesn't put in the extra work. This person didn't have their classroom set up. I had to go set their classroom up. And all you're doing is supporting them. Where's my support? Why aren't you focused on helping me grow as a person? Instead, you're giving all your energy to this person, and they see it. And then you're nice and you're polite and you write them a good workup, and they fail. And I see this so often where people, they're too soft on their children. They're too polite. Their kids grow up to be little tyrants. And we do this with bad employees. I'm not saying like long-term, like employees that are off track, let's say. Teachers, faculty, stuff that aren't doing everything they can. Instead of sitting down and have a realistic, direct conversation like, hey, man, I'm going to write you up because you were absent this week. Well, I had a car breakdown. I had a family emergency. And I understand all that. Life happens. I didn't say I'm going to get rid of you. I didn't say I'm going to threaten. But this behavior cannot continue. We all have to show up. I have to show up despite these issues I'm having, you've got to learn how to work and deal with life. We all have personal lives. We all have issues. But if you want to be a winner and you really want to help and you want to be a good teammate, you got to show up and you got to be present. And I'm sorry about all those things. If I can help you, want to talk, you want to vent, get a cup of coffee, I'm down. But you got to be here, man. And I'm not doing you any favors by making it so easy for you that you don't have any standards and you don't improve because all these other people are watching. And I got to take care of this whole team. And so that's a really dangerous situation. Emma, let's take one more if you got one.
Yes. So we actually had one pop up right here. So, all right. I want to support my teachers / team, but we have so many rules and HR requirements. It's hard to know how far I can go sometimes. I don't want them to quit. I don't want to have parents freaking out, and I don't want to get fired.
So I get it. You're troubled with layers of bureaucracy, right? And I've never actually, I know people lean on the rules and they use the rules as an excuse not to do the right thing. And I guess when you're looking at your team, sometimes you just have to decide like, look, I got to follow a certain level of rules and bureaucracy and filling out certain levels of paperwork, but are you going to support them? Are you going to be on their side of the good ones? Are you going to be their advocate or not? I didn't say you had to break rules. I didn't say that you had to ignore problem people. I didn't, but you can still be advocates for the good people, and you can still try to coach the bad ones, even within this, in this rather complicated bureaucratic way. I think we kind of addressed that some. Let's. I think we have time for one more, because look, at the end of the day, is I know you've got procedures and rules, but don't not connect with another human being and blame a rule. And we see this all too often with parents. Also, like parents come in, they're upset, and the front desk people will go, well, you got to go fill out, rule 32-5, and you do it in triplicate, and we have a process for that. It's like, man, be a human first. Just talk to them, connect with them for a minute, and then you can start to lean onto the rules after that. But initially, like, be there for them. Yeah, I think we have time for one more.
Okay. This is one that someone sent in ahead of time. What can you do if you have a weak leader?
Okay, I find that to be okay. That's a little thin for me, but I'm gonna try to dance around it, because I've heard this come up. It's like, so you're a teacher and you get a crappy principal, right? I'm gonna take it that that's probably what they're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, man. It's tough out there, right? And I'll try to coach, I'll try to train the leaders and up and down, but if you are a teammate and you do not have a strong leader, you got a couple choices, I guess. First off, you can just take charge. You can just start taking charge politely, take charge of situations and meetings, and just try to do that and make sure you don't step on toes, because I don't want to get you fired. You can talk to them and you can say, hey, I'm very supportive of you. I like working here in this school and everything like this, but it sure seems like there's a lot of favoritism going around, or there's lack of goal setting. There's a lack of holding people accountable. And I see that. Always speak for yourself, right? Don't ever don't say we, like we think this, because who the hell is we? You can only speak for yourself, right? And you could say, I think that it'd be a better working environment if we could set goals and standards, and I'd be very supportive of that for you. And you could just kind of be direct, but tactful in that. And I think that's fair to do, because sometimes leaders get busy too, and principals get busy, and they go, oh, thanks a lot, man. I didn't see that, right? And then the third one is you can leave, right? You can quit. And I don't want you to be in a miserable job. I don't want you to be in a miserable thing. There are school systems and school districts that want good people like you. And at some point, you got to stop butting your head up, because what I don't want you to do is leave teaching. I don't want you to leave working in the school systems because of one bad leader. Go find a better leader and keep doing what your passion is. All right. So we've covered a lot today. I always like to run these about 42 minutes because the science will show that's when people start fading away in the middle of the day. So we're going to put this on YouTube. We'll post it up. We're going to email it out and all that stuff. And thank you for being here. I hope you got some value out of it. If you have any follow-up questions you need, email them to us. And heck, we'll do our best to answer them. I just want to be supportive of you. All right. Thanks, everybody.